Things kicked off with a woman looking at a boy with lust. The boy groaned as he woke up. He discovered the woman on top of him and freaked out. He quickly jumped out of bed instinctively. The woman can't believe that the drugs she used wore off quickly. She found the boy more attractive now that he was awake. The protagonist, Chu Qing, stared in a daze and realized that he had been reborn. 300 years ago, he accidentally entered the fairy realm and became a cultivator. He worked hard as a swordsman cultivator. Just when he was making a breakthrough to reach the realm of eternity, he accidentally entered the Hall of Space and Time and found himself back on Earth when he was 17 years old. However, he doesn't know why he was with a woman who was ready to gobble him up. Chu Qing apologizes as he wears a shirt. The woman named Ye Chenxi claimed that she doesn't let go of her prey. Chu Qing ignored her words, and Ye Chenxi got offended. She grabbed Chu Qing's arm, and our protagonist realized how strong Ye Chenxi was. Chu Qing grabbed Ye Chenxi with his other hand and released cultivation energy, but his current body didn't have enough energy. Chu Qing got repelled off and discovered his uniform. He grabbed them and dashed outside, leaving Ye Chenxi, who was impressed that a boy had escaped from her. She swore to never let go of Chu Qing. Chu Qing finally got outside and looked around. He was glad to return to Earth after 300 long years. Just then, he noticed a woman scolding a man who wanted the woman to buy him a bag. The couple left, and Chu Qing was pushed aside by a huge woman working at a nearby construction site with either woman. Chu Qing noticed something wrong. He looked around and noticed that people were acting differently compared to his world before. In the nearby library, Chu Qing found out that a cataclysm happened during ancient times, altering the physiology of women and making them smarter and stronger. A woman named Kong Mo was born and created the ideology that women are far superior to men. It is already the 21st century, and men are seen as inferiors. A man was to blame during extramarital affairs, and it was normal for women to chase men. Chu Qing can't believe the world has become reversed compared to before. Chu Qing went back home and was happy to discover his father, quickly hugging him. Lin Yuantu wondered why Chu Qing was back home early. Suddenly, he sniffed women's perfume on his son and warned Chu Qing that it was dangerous for a handsome man like him to get tangled with random women. He reminded Chu Qing about the news of a boy getting taken advantage of. He was worried about Chu Qing's future, unlike Chu Qing's sister, who was known to be jobless. Chu Qing then asked for his mother's whereabouts. Lin Yuantu explained that she was still working. Chu Qing then mentioned checking on his older sister. He sneakily opened the door to his sister's room and took a peek. His sister Chu Xiao was busy watching something online with a tissue for certain purposes on the side. Chu Qing closed the door, wondered if he was in a dream, and screamed like a madman, surprising his busy sister. Frustrated, Chu Xiao wondered what was wrong and came out of her room. Chu Qing briefly glared at her and asked if she was watching porn. Chu Xiao confidently corrected him, saying that it is the age of live broadcasting nowadays. She told her little brother that things like these were not for him and left a distraught Chu Qing. That night, Chu Xiao asked Lin Yuantu for money to eat outside. Lin Yuantu feels frustrated that the jobless Chu Xiao is making up reasons like starting a business with her friends. He scolded Chu Xiao and compared her to her brother. Nevertheless, he gave Chu Xiao the money she asked for and reminded her to save some money sometimes. Chu Qing wondered if it was fine to let her go. But Lin Yuante claimed it was fine as long as she stayed out of trouble. Chu Qing fully realized what the world had become. Just then, the door opened, and Chu Tianan appeared. Chu Qing quickly ran over to hug his mother. Chu Tianan wondered if Chu Qing wanted an allowance and gave him a lot. Chu Qing couldn't believe his stingy mother was being generous. He tried to return it, but Chu Tianan told him to keep it as long as he studied hard. He observed how his father was behaving towards his mom, and found it very awkward and repulsive that his mom was the main earner of the family, while his father was shouldering the duties typically associated with a wife. He wondered if his own life would follow a similar path. Unable to tolerate the scene any longer, he left his parents and retreated to his room. Inside his room, he opened a drawer and discovered several letters. He realized that he had been the school flower during his time at secondary school. Feeling irritated, he planned to cultivate and leave the reversed world. Since the world's aura was rich and pure, Chu Qing started cultivating it so he could open the Hall of Space and Time. This was all to return to his original world and get away from the one he wandered into. Hours passed by, and Chu Qing noticed how his senses had sharpened. He tested out his skills and checked his parents' and sister's rooms. Seeing that her sister was not home yet, Chu Qing remembered that he was in a reversed world where girls could be outside all they wanted. Just then, his sister called and asked Chu Qing to listen. Chu Xiao claimed that she was in trouble. She asked Chu Qing not to tell their parents or the police. Chu Qing wondered what happened. but Chu Xiao told him to bring her black bag to a certain bar. A woman then took over the conversation and threatened to harm Chu Xiao. The call ended, and Chu Qing wore a frightening expression. He quickly got the bag and leaped out of the apartment building, swearing not to let anyone mess with his family. He then jumped on the roofs like a ninja. At the bar, Chu Qing arrived and threw the bag on a table. He asked the blue-haired woman to let Chu Xiao go. The woman got interested in Chu Qing, but our protagonist ignored her words and opened the bag full of money. Chu Xiao wondered why there was money in there, but Chu Qing didn't even know why. Chu Xiao then told Zhou, the leader of the women around, that a person named Lin asked her to keep the bag for a while. Zhou got mad since Lin Xiaowan stole her money and ordered her goons to let Chu Xiao go. Chu Xiao thanked Zhou and grabbed Chu Qing. However, Zhou stopped them since she wanted her cute little brother. Chu Xiao covered for Chu Qing and threatened Zhou to let her brother go. Zhou laughed out loud and claimed that only one of the siblings could go. Chu Xiao then offered herself and asked Chu Qing to go home first, since it was not safe for a man to solve the situation. Chu Qing moved his sister aside and kicked the table as he asked if Zhou really wanted him to remain. Everyone was shocked to see a rowdy male in front of them. Zhou swore to torture Chu Qing on her bed. Just then, Chu Qing slapped Zhou, much to Chu Xiao's shock. Zhou fought back with a punch, but Chu Qing blocked it with a punch too. After being pushed back, Chu Qing found the reverse world's female strength interesting. Zhou ordered her goons to attack Chu Qing. Chu Qing quickly dodged and started a spinning attack like a Beyblade. Everyone fell to the ground, and Chu Qing held his sister. Suddenly, Zhou pointed a gun toward the siblings. Chu Xiao covered for Chu Qing. Zhou swore to kill the two of them. Chu Qing's expression suddenly got serious, but just then, the door opened. A familiar, beautiful woman suddenly appeared. Ye Chengxi cheerfully greeted Chu Qing, who suddenly had a flashback to the scenes from the first chapter. He wondered why she was there, and Ye Chengxi claimed that she owned the place. She ordered Zhou to scram, but Zhou claimed that Ye Chengxi was breaking the rules. Ye Chengxi's expression darkened, and she ordered her bodyguards to cut Zhou's limbs and throw her outside. Ye Chengxi wondered if Chu Qing liked her present. Chu Qing wondered why she was being kind to him, and Ye Chengxi claimed that Chu Qing was the first man to ever talk back to her. Ye Chengxi claimed Chu Qing as her boyfriend number 36. Chu Qing declined after hearing that. Ye Chengxi was worried that a frail-looking boy like Chu Qing would end up as a prostitute. Chu Qing smirked and wondered if Ye Chengxi was stronger than her. Chu Xiao got worried for her brother. Chu Qing suggested they play a game together to see who was stronger. The deal was that if he won, Ye Chengxi wouldn't disturb him anymore, but if Ye Chengxi won, Chu Qing would become her boyfriend. They soon began the game. While women in this world are extraordinary and see men as insignificant, Ye Chengxi surprised Chu Qing with her extraordinary strength. However, Chu Qing seeks to prove that he isn't an ordinary man. Chengxi was caught off guard as Chu Qing slammed her arm on the table. Chu Hai reminded Ye Chengxi about their bet and dragged his sister away with him. Ye Chengxi's aura suddenly became intimidating. A guard offered her help to chase Chu Qing, but Ye Chengxi slapped her while claiming that she still hadn't lost to Chu Qing yet. She called out to Chu Qing and offered it to her husband so no one could ever touch him. Chu Qing claimed that men don't need women's protection at all, making the others think that he was crazy. Ye Chengxi exclaimed that women are the pillars of the world, and everyone agreed that fewer men were excelling in all fields. Chu Qing confronted Ye Chengxi and exclaimed that men can strive and fight to get better and get women as rewards instead. Ye Chengxi can't help but smile while watching Chu Qing leave the bar. Because Chu Qing was her type, she swore not to let him go. A guard reminded her about something, but Ye Chengxi just brushed it off. On the way home, Chu Xiao wondered if Chu Qing would tell their parents about what happened. Of course, Chu Qing will tattle on her, and Chu Xiao can't believe that she is being threatened. She then wondered how Chu Qing suddenly got strong. She also mentioned how it would be great to marry Ye Chengxi since she was the heiress of an important family. Chu Qing told her sister to shut up. Back at home, while Chu Qing was practicing his skills, he discovered his perverted sister and her crazy antics again. The next day at school, Chu Qing heard a familiar voice near the entrance. It was his best friend, Lin Dong, running like a fragile woman. Oozing with femininity, Lin Dong wondered if something had happened to Chu Qing. Our protagonist quickly backed off and escaped since this world's Lin Dong was not his friend at all. Chu Qing can't stand the reversed world anymore. Just then, a female classmate named Song Chaoran checked to see if Chu Qing was feeling fine. Chu Qing claimed that he was just hungry. Song Chaoran shyly offered her food, but another classmate with a gorilla face stopped her. She pushed aside Song Chaoran and clung to Chu Qing. Chu Qing pushed the girl away and exuded killing intent. The girl tried to hurt Chu Qing as revenge, but someone intervened. A pretty boy named Ye Mao appeared and told the girl to stay away from him. He then asked Chu Qing for a conversation. He apologized for what happened the other day with his sister. In a flashback, he had his sister, Ye Chenxi, give Chu Qing a ride back home. During the ride, Ye Chenxi gave Chu Qing a drink that made him fall asleep. Ye Mao apologized upon realizing late about his sister's plans. Chu Qing told Ye Mao not to think much about it. After classes, Ye Chenxi appeared near the school gate to give Chu Qing a ride. Chu Qing couldn't believe that he was being stalked. Ye Chenxi then mentioned to Chu Qing his family's safety. In the end, Chu Qing complied, but he claimed that Ye Chenxi made a mistake by messing with his family. To scare her off, Chu Qing lightly tapped a car decoration and shattered it. He then moved over on top of Ye Chenxi, reminding her about the consequences. Ye Chenxi corrected herself and mentioned that she could help Chu Qing's family business get back on its feet. Chu Qing wondered if Ye Chenxi was acting sympathetic, but Ye Chenxi only wanted to pursue Chu Qing's heart. Chu Qing agreed to start off as friends and reminded Ye Chenxi not to annoy him. While driving, Ye Chenxi asked if Chu Qing practiced old martial arts. Chu Qing debunked that idea, saying men were considered weak. Ye Chenxi figured that out since she already did a background check on Chu Qing's family history, free of martial artists. Chu Qing then stared at her. Just then, I noticed a truck, but it was too late. Their car crashed and was thrown off the road. Ye Chenxi opened her eyes and discovered an injured Chu Qing protecting her. She got worried, but Chu Qing grabbed her and busted the door open. The two came out of the car, and Ye Chenxi suggested going to the hospital. However, Chu Qing claimed that it was not over. A group of women came out of the truck. Ye Chenxi confronted them since they hurt her man. She fought the woman all alone. One slipped away and ran toward Chu Qing. Chu Qing used a bit of energy and knocked out the attacker. He then saw Ye Chenxi being outnumbered, and with a weapon in his hand, he joined the fight. Chu Qing surprised everyone as he slashed multiple attackers. Ye Chenxi then struck the remaining ones and knocked them out. Ye Chenxi commended Chu Qing, but it was nothing for him. Ye Chenxi then planned to investigate the matter. She then asked Chu Qing for dinner, but Chu Qing claimed that his father would get worried. Ye Chenxi got a call and shouted in disbelief. Chu Qing wondered if it was about the Ye family, but he didn't care at all. Just then, Ye Chenxi grabbed Chu Qing and asked her not to go since her mother was also attacked in the same way as them. Chu Qing realized that this was not a simple coincidence. Ye Chenxi was worried that her mom might die, and that her aunt could kick her out of the Ye family. Chu Qing tried to calm her down, and Ye Chenxi felt assured by Chu Qing's words. She then hugged him tightly, and the two soon arrived at the Ye family's residence. When they got there, they found the entrance blocked by guards per Ye Chenxi's aunt's orders. Chu Qing said he was a doctor checking on Ye Chenxi's mom, but they doubted him because he was a man claiming to be a doctor. Luckily, Chu Qing had learned medicine in the fairy world. He looked at the security guards and accurately diagnosed their health issues, shocking everyone. They finally let him in. However, Ye Chenxi's aunt, Ye Mei, and her daughter, Ye Meier, stopped them. Ye Chenxi wondered where her mom was. Ye Mei called Ye Chenxi rude, and couldn't believe she brought a man home since they were banned from their family. She told Chu Qing he had to prove himself before he could enter the Ye family. Ye Mei asked her daughter, Ye Meier, to test Chu Qing's skills. Ye Mei set up this plan to frame Chenxi by making it seem like he had done something wrong. Her goal was to get Ye Chenxi to help Chu Qing while Ye Meier hurt him, breaking the rules of the Ye family. Ye Meier's condition was that if she won a fight against Chu Qing, he would have to spend the night with her. Even though Ye Chenxi objected, Chu Qing agreed and told them to start the fight. Ye Meier attacked first, but Chu Qing dodged and knocked her out with one hit. This surprised Ye Mei, who started complaining. After that, Chu Qing and Ye Chenxi went inside to meet Ye Chenxi's mom. In her room, Ye Chenxi's mom, not sure if he could really help, asked him to leave them alone for a while. With a quick glance, he figured out her condition. This made Ye Chenxi's mom ask everyone else to leave the room so she could talk to him alone. She thought Chu Qing was from the Li family and questioned his intentions towards Ye Chenxi. But he said he's just a friend of Ye Chenxi, not from the Li family. She believed him and showed him her wound. Chu Qing was surprised to see the wound had gotten worse. He explained that although she could manage it for now, it would harm her organs in 5 days. He placed his hand over the wound and started absorbing it, but his current abilities didn't let him absorb all of it. Chenxi's mother felt relieved seeing him try and thanked him for helping. While he was on his way home, he noticed the wound on his palm that he had absorbed. Unfortunately, he couldn't get rid of it given his current abilities. He remembered an elixir from the fairy world that worked for injuries like this, but he wasn't sure if it existed in this world. The next day at school, he saw Tang Xian playing basketball, with all the boys watching her admirably. Back in his original world, Tang Xian had been his crush during prep school, but she didn't recognize him here. Surprisingly, she walked over to him and challenged him to a basketball game. He agreed and took the ball from her. She proposed a bet. If she won, he would be her boyfriend, and if he won, she would do whatever he asked. The game started. She quickly scored her first point, leaving Chu Qing shocked. She got hold of the ball once more and tried scoring another point, but he blocked her shot and took control of the ball. He then said it was his turn and made an impressive jump to score a point from quite a distance. This secured his win. Feeling victorious, he mustered the courage to ask her out on a date. Her response was a playful challenge. She told him to get stronger first if he wanted that date. Later, back at the Ye family mansion, Chenxi wanted to know how to thank Chu Qing for saving her and her mom. Chu Qing grinned and asked for some time to think, coming up with some amusing ideas. Unbeknownst to her, helping Chenxi's mom had actually boosted his progress in cultivating his pure aura and spiritual strength. He had a strong determination to fully heal Chenxi's mom the next time around, in order to completely awaken his spiritual body. While he was walking home, Li Yue came across him and warned him to steer clear of Tang Xian. However, Chu Qing paid no attention to the threats. This made Li Yue angry, and he tried to physically confront Chu Qing. But Chu Qing skillfully avoided the confrontation, defeating both him and his female bodyguards. Chu Qing couldn't understand why Tang Xian wanted to marry someone as unintelligent as Li Yue. This made him think about investigating the situation. He remembered Chenxi's offer of a reward and decided to ask her for a private investigator. Chu Qing waited at the bar for the private investigator to arrive. A young woman named Chen Huahua came up to him and introduced herself as the investigator. He was surprised because she looked too young for the job. Chen Huahua asked about his relationship with Chenxi and even flirted with him, jokingly asking him to be her boyfriend. This made Chu Qing feel awkward, so he quickly shifted to the main reason he was there. He asked her about Tang Xian's family. Chen Huahua told him that Tang's family was a big deal in the city, owning most of the major businesses. But recently, they had run into some problems, and their finances were not stable. To help them out, the Li family proposed a marriage between Li Yue and Tang Xian. This surprised Chu Qing because Tang Xian had never mentioned any of this before. Curious, Chu Qing also asked Chen Huahua about alchemy and whether alchemic families existed in this world. To his surprise, she said that the Tang family was one of those alchemic families, known for making elixirs and medicines. He was intrigued and wanted to know more. She explained to him about the two main types of alchemy known to people: common alchemy, which involved using inner power to make elixirs, and another type that used spiritual energy. She mentioned that the second type was beyond her expertise. This made him wonder if there were others like him in this world. Wanting to know more, he tried to ask questions, but she made a playful deal. She'd share more info if he had dinner with her. Agreeing, he followed her to a small restaurant. He was surprised when she ordered pork skewers and beer, and he noticed other women ordering the same. It then hit him again that this world was the opposite of what he was used to. As the evening went on, Chen Huahua got more and more drunk. Seeing her state, he took her home and laid her gently on her bed. Just as he was about to leave, she grabbed his hand and asked him to stay. After getting some sleep, Chu Qing picked up Chen Huahua's phone and started looking for more information. He opened a document about confidential transactions and found out about an auction house where they sold rare items. He thought about something valuable she could auction to make a lot of money in this world. A few days later, Chu Qing practiced cultivation and got hold of a spiritual rock. These rocks were special because they helped with training and learning old martial arts. You could get them from specific sources like veins or by cultivating eternity. Since these rocks were really rare in this world, Chu Qing decided to auction the one he had. Chu Qing also went to Chenxi's family place and healed her mother completely. In return, Chenxi's mother promised to help him if he ever had any problems. On his way back home, Chu Qing realized he needed to focus on his cultivation to fully restore his spiritual body. Out of the blue, Chenxi stopped him one day and kissed him as a way to thank him for helping her mom. She promised to give him an even better gift in the future. Back home, Chu Qing continued to work on his cultivation until he finally managed to revive his spiritual body. And in the process, he even summoned a sword. Out of nowhere, Chu Xiao burst into his room. He's undressed, so he hurriedly covered up and hid the sword. She said sorry and left, thinking her brother was doing something private. Chu Qing got dressed and went to the auction house to sell a spiritual rock. Jia Yu, who's in charge there, saw the rock and offered a lot of money on the spot. Back home, Chu Qing thought that if he built a big group of businesses with this money, he could eventually control the auction and the martial arts world. He gets a message from Chen Huahua asking to meet for a drink. On his way there, someone suddenly attacks him. He grabs his sword and quickly attacks the person. The person begs for mercy, saying Li Yue sent them. But Chu Qing doesn't spare them and decides he's going to destroy the Li family. He keeps walking and then feels a strong heartbeat. He started feeling his body getting hotter, and his vision got blurry. He went over to Chen Huahua's house and began wondering why he had come there. Suddenly he felt a strong attraction, so he kissed Chen Huahua. He was surprised by his feelings and said sorry. But Chen Huahua told him to keep going, and they ended up being together that night. The next day, Tang Xian looked for him in class. She asked him to have lunch, but then she noticed a woman's scent on him. She didn't pay attention to it and told him to come along anyway. Others started wondering why a popular student like her would ask Tang Xian to have lunch together. While they were on their way, Tang Xian asked if they could hold hands, and he agreed. This made her blush. Tang Xian grew up being groomed as an heiress and always had to be careful about who she hung out with. But after meeting Chu Qing at the court, she had this strange feeling that he meant something important to her. She was already falling for him, feeling safe and relaxed whenever they were together. It was all so new to her, and she didn't understand why. At the cafeteria, Chu Qing ordered exactly what she loved to eat, which made Tang Xian wonder how he knew. While they were talking, he noticed two unfamiliar women entering. He got up from the table to get the food. Out of the blue, these two women took out daggers and tried to attack Tang Xian. Without wasting time, Chu Qing threw a plate of hot food at one of them, stopping their attack. He got stabbed by the other person, but he used his power to push her away. Then he fought with them and won. Tang Xian was surprised and asked if he came from a martial arts family, but he said no. He told her they should leave the cafeteria because it wasn't safe anymore. As they left, he started feeling weak from the stab wound. Tang Xian offered to take him to the hospital, but he said the wound wasn't serious and would heal on its own. Chu Qing was surprised that he could get hurt by the two average assassins, so he decided to make spirit artifacts for defense. Tang Xian said her family was known for making medicines, but their recipe was stolen a month ago. Other medicinal families joined forces to pressure them, possibly because of the Li family. He said he could help with her family's problem and suggested making a new formula for medicines. She explained that making formulas was tough. He told her that after the auction in 2 days, her family would notice him, and they could talk more then. Suddenly, he felt his heart thumping and realized the spirit energy he had put on Chenxi was gone. He left Tang Xian behind and quickly called Chen Huahua to figure out where Chenxi was. After that, he called up Jia Yu to get a ride. Jia Yu showed up without delay, and they began tailing the person Chen Huahua had pointed out. Jia Yu drove aggressively, and before long, they spotted a van carrying Chenxi. Jia Yu forced the van to stop by ramming his car into it. Chu Qing got out of his car, took on all the people inside the van, and beat them in no time. As he tried to open the van's trunk, there was a sudden explosion that pushed him away. He was pretty surprised by the power and started wondering if there were spiritual cultivators in this world. 2 men representing the Quanzhen sect arrived and praised his skills. They invited him to join their sect, but Chu Qing declined, criticizing their abilities. This provoked their anger, and one of them attacked with a salamander rod. Chu Qing countered with his sword, breaking the rod. Despite a fiery punch from his assailant, Chu Qing severed his hand. Seeing this, the other man grew furious, but before he could react, Chu Qing killed him. The last man attempted to use his powers, but Chu Qing swiftly stabbed him. Chu Qing went over to the van to wake up Chenxi. After spotting him, she informed him that they needed to leave immediately to avoid the arrival of 2 senior Taoists. Chenxi reassured her, saying that everything was all right. He then asked if she had any idea who might have kidnapped her. She suspected the Li family's involvement and mentioned that other smaller families had also been causing issues for her family. Chu Qing reasoned that this could be due to an upcoming auction where rare treasures were expected to show up. These families might have wanted to prevent their competitors from learning about it. Chenxi invited Chu Qing to her house so her mother could thank him for rescuing her. He agreed, and when they reached Chengxi's place, they stumbled upon a secret meeting involving the Ye family. Chengxi's mom offered Chu Qing a seat, but one of the family members objected. He told them he wasn't there for the secret meeting. Instead, he showed them a spiritual stone and said he wanted to talk about business. He gave them the stone and asked them to check it. They didn't know its value, so they thought it was just a regular stone. But Chu Qing told Chengxi's mom to use her inner strength to feel its energy. When she did, she felt more energetic. She was surprised and asked how much he'd sell it for. He said it wouldn't be sold until an upcoming auction. He then offered them 2 talismans he had made, one for protection and another to boost their combat strength temporarily. They were shocked and asked why he was helping them. He said it was because Chen Shi was his friend. However, Chu Qing's real plan was to use the Ye family's help to establish his business in the city. Afterward, when he got home, he met his second aunt, Chu Qing. She wanted to talk about his arranged marriage. He told her he was still in college and wanted to delay marriage until after graduation. However, his aunt disagreed and began criticizing his family members. This made him angry, leading him to hit the table in frustration. His aunt got up to leave but reminded him about getting married soon before exiting. Feeling annoyed, he insulted her and went to his room. In his room, he called Chen Shi for a favor. After a while, Chu Qing, his aunt, enjoyed her time with some men at the bar. During this time, Chen Shi instructed someone to break her leg and remove a kidney. Meanwhile, that night, Chu Qing spent the whole night creating protective items for his friends and family. These items were meant to let him know right away if they were in danger. The next morning, he gave the protective pendants he had made to his father and sister. At school, he fell asleep in class since he had stayed up all night working on the items. The teacher noticed he was asleep and told him to come solve a problem on the board. Even though he hadn't paid much attention in class, he remembered Song Chaoran, a classmate from his past life, teaching him. Using that memory, he managed to solve the problem correctly. This surprised everyone, including the teacher. Despite having slept through the lecture, Chu Qing's solution impressed the teacher so much that they made him the class representative. After class, Chu Qing rested his head on the desk to avoid others noticing as he created a new talisman. Suddenly, his best friend tapped him, and he paused swiftly. He handed the talisman to his friend for protection. His friend told him about the upcoming school sports events in 2 days, and asked if he wanted to join. Chu Qing wasn't initially interested, but his friend managed to convince him eventually. After a bit, a girl named Ling Wanner came looking for Chu Qing. She was the school's popular figure, known for singing and playing the piano. She invited him to a party thrown by a middle school friend, mentioning that others from middle school would also love to see him there. After she left, Chu Qing went to meet Tang Ziyan in her classroom. He found her struggling with her homework, specifically a question he had previously solved in class. He kindly offered to help her and explained how to tackle the problem. Once he had assisted her, he suggested they step outside. Out there, he gave her one of the protective items he had made. Back inside the classroom, Chu Qing set himself a goal to create 30 more of these items before the school bell rang. He had promised to bring them to the Ye family. After some time, the school bell rang, signaling the end of the day. Chu Qing packed all the items he had crafted into his bag. As he was thinking about visiting Chen Shi later, a friend suddenly tapped him on the shoulder. The friend asked if he wanted to hang out with them that night. He said no, and went to Chen Shi's house. Chen Shi was really happy to see him again because she had been missing him. He also gave her the protective artifact. While she was wondering what it was used for, he threw a glass cup at her. But suddenly the talisman did something and made a barrier that stopped the cup from hitting her. She got really excited and kissed him. She wanted to sleep with him as a present, but he told her he had other things to do and would come back later. Then he left and went to Chen Huahua's house. Huahua was asleep, so he woke her up. When she saw him, she got excited and hugged him. After she had slept, Chu Qing found out that Huahua had gathered information about the ancient martial arts families in the city for him. While he was heading back, his dad called to know where he was, so his mom could pick him up. After a bit, his mom came, picked him up, and asked why he smelled like a woman's perfume. He didn't tell her the truth, and she advised him not to be alone with women. Shortly after, he got a notification that the Ye family had paid him 1.2 million yuan for the talismans he had given them. This got him thinking that if making artifacts could earn him that much, crafting elixirs could make him rich. When he got home, he visited Jia Yu, gave him a protective artifact, and Jia Yu thanked him, mentioning it was the first time someone had treated him like a real friend. They both talked about their difficult pasts and drank until they got drunk. When Chu Qing got back home, he found his sister trying to sneak into the house because it was late. She saw him and got annoyed about his late return and the alcohol smell. Then she passed out, also drunk. So, Chu Qing helped her to her room. But when he tried to leave, his sister held him and pulled him onto the bed. She started mentioning some guy's name and tried to kiss him. In his drunken state, Chu Qing started to respond, but then he realized it was his sister and stopped himself. He quickly left the room and decided not to drink anymore. The next day he went shopping for clothes for a reunion party. He also thought about getting a car so he wouldn't have to keep asking Jia for rides. That's when he bumped into an old classmate, Zhou Bu-kun. Zhou Bu-kun let him know about the reunion party he was setting up, but Chu Qing told him Ling Wanner had already invited him 2 days earlier. Zhou Bu-kun was surprised that Ling Wanner asked him personally. He got a bit mad and left. Back when they were in middle school, Zhou Bu-kun used to bully Chu Qing and spread lies about him. Later, Chu Qing went to a car store to buy one. Some ladies saw him and thought a rich woman was looking after him. At night, he came to the party driving his new car. He saw Tang Ziyan and asked about Ling Wanner who had invited him. She said, "It's not her concern." She also spilled the beans that Zhou Bu-kun had a bet with everyone that Chu Qing would show up in a school uniform. If he was wrong, he'd pay for everyone's meals for a week. Turns out, Zhou Bu-kun lost the bet and was pretty mad. Zhou Bu-kun told everyone about their Olympics preparation and his plan to create a male basketball team. He jokingly invited Chu Qing to join, trying to tease him. However, Chu Qing wasn't interested and declined. During the event, Chu Qing shared some dessert with Tang Ziyan, which made Zhou Bu-kun feel envious. Tang Ziyan, with affection, asked Chu Qing if he would consider joining the basketball team. He said he would do it if she gave him a kiss. Tang Ziyan suggested a French kiss instead, and this made people admire them and call them a couple. Later, Chu Qing invited everyone to have dessert at a nearby restaurant, and he paid for everyone. This shifted the attention from Zhou Bu-kun, who had organized the event, to Chu Qing, who became the center of attention. After a little while, Ling Wanner showed up, and Zhou Bu-kun was really happy to see her. He went over to welcome her, but she left him and went to meet Chu Qing instead. Zhou Bu-kun was asked to play the piano, and he invited Ling Wanner to dance while he played. Ling Wanner told everyone that the dance was for her best friend, Chu Qing. This made Tang Ziyan feel jealous because she thought Ling Wanner was dancing for Chu Qing. At the same time, Zhou Bu-kun got upset when he saw Chu Qing talking to Tang Ziyan, while Ling Wanner was dancing for him. He got angry and confronted Chu Qing, but Chu Qing made fun of his music, which made Zhou Bu-kun even more furious. He got ready to fight and demanded an apology from Chu Qing. But instead, Chu Qing warned him that if he lost, he'd better say goodbye to his hands. This frightened him a lot. He began singing a strange song, the kind gods sing, something he'd learned when he was becoming a god in his previous life. A mist appeared behind him, scaring Zhou Bu-kun, but Ling Wanner stepped in to stop Chu Qing. Tang Ziyan also told him to stop so he wouldn't get into trouble later on. The song's anger had such a strong effect on Chu Qing that he almost forgot he wasn't in heaven anymore. He took a kitchen knife and cut off Zhou Bu-kun's hair. He told Zhou Bu-kun that he wasn't the same person he had bullied before, and he warned him to never show up in front of him again. Zhou Bu-kun felt ashamed and left, and the party continued. After the party, Chu Qing realized he smelled like beer and thought it wouldn't be a good idea to go home to his parents that way. So, he called his sister and told her he couldn't come home. Instead, he decided to go to Hua Hua's house. When he got there, he saw that her front door was open. He walked in and saw a man struggling with Hua Hua. He tried to help her, but then he recognized that the man was her dad. Hua Hua's dad said she owed him money, but she said he had used the money for gambling instead. He insisted it was his right to get the money back from her. Getting frustrated, Hua Hua threw her debit card at her dad, but he said he would get the money from her boyfriend. Hua Hua defended Chu Qing by saying he was just a student with no money. Her dad then grabbed her and even suggested she should sell herself to rich boyfriends to get the money. Chu Qing told him that he'd pay the requested amount, but on the condition that he sign a paper. This paper meant he'd have to end their father-daughter relationship, and promise to never bother her again. At first he said no, but Chu Qing said she'd cancel the offer if he didn't agree. Faced with this, he eventually said yes. Once he signed, Chu Qing used magic to turn a mug into a weapon. She warned him about what could happen if he bothered Hua Hua again, and actually hurt him with the mug. After that, he kissed Hua Hua and they spent the night together. The next morning, Hua Hua woke up Chu Qing to share some good news with him. She had made a nice breakfast for him. He was curious why she was treating him so special. She told him she didn't want to lose him. He reassured her and said she should just be herself. A bit later, he got a message from Jia, saying he had sent the money he asked for. It was the same amount he planned to give to Hua Hua's father. Then, a message came from Tang Ziyan, asking him to come to the basketball club after school. At the basketball club, Tang Ziyan asked him about the new potion formula he had mentioned. He gave her a paper with the formula he thought could help mages upgrade their magic. She joked about running away with it and asked if he trusted her. He said he cared more about helping her family than the money. She confessed she had fallen for him, and they kissed. Later that night, while he was studying at home, his mother came to talk. She asked if he liked any girl. His mom told him it was okay if he married the girl he loved, but her family disagreed. She couldn't help him much. She said he had to join the national university if he wanted to marry his choice and avoid the arranged marriage. After a while, Chu Qing started practicing and summoned his sword. He saw the sword was different with rust on it. If the rust didn't go away, bad things would happen. He thought he might have taken the wrong path during practice. He urgently needed to find a sheath for the sword to save himself. Then, he got a call from Ziyu. Mad that Chu Qing missed an auction. Chu Qing had forgotten about it due to a nap. He rushed to the auction to find something for his sword. At the auction, he had challenged her, which had made her angry. When she tried to hit him, he grabbed her hand and caused her pain. Ziyu had seen everything and stood up for Chu Qing. He also kicked out the ladies who had mocked him from the auction house. Ziyu had also told him about stopping someone from the Chu family in the imperial capital. This person had come to buy information about his second aunt, Chu Qing, who had lost a leg and a kidney. Chu Qing had acted like he didn't know anything about what happened to his aunt. Chenxi and her mom had shown up at the auction house later. Chenxi was really happy to see Chu Qing again. They all went to a room, and Chu Qing checked the list of items for auction. And guess what? The spiritual stone he had mentioned to Ziyu was actually up for auction. He got Chenxi a drink, and while doing that, she pulled him closer. She seduced him, and they soon began making out. Just then, Ziyu walked in on them. He said sorry for interrupting and left in a hurry. Chenxi tried to continue, but Chu Qing suggested they stop for now due to his unease with Ziyu around. However, Ziyu hadn't actually left. He was just behind the door. Chu Qing called him back in, and he brought information about the auction items. Unfortunately, Chu Qing couldn't find the special spiritual golden material needed to free his sword among the items. Ziyu took the information and showed it to Chenxi, implying that Chu Qing's expectations were too high. Chenxi noticed a particular item, and as she looked at it closely, Chu Qing zoomed in and realized that it was made of the same material he was looking for. All of a sudden, he hears Tang Xian's voice coming from the auction room. She's bidding a huge amount for something. He's curious about why she's bidding so much and decides to figure out what's being auctioned. Turns out it's the Tang family formula. He wonders who would auction it. So he goes to find out more while Chu Qing heads back to meet Chenxi. He asks Chenxi why she's only interested in having fun with guys and not in her family's matters. He wants to know how she plans to solve family problems if she doesn't care about them. After a bit, Ziyu comes back with information about how much they made from selling spiritual stones. Chu Qing then asks Ziyu about the buyer of something called Jiang, an item that's made of the same material he's looking for. Ziyu says he can't say who the buyer is due to the rules. But Chu Qing clarifies that he's only interested in the container itself, not what was inside it. This surprises Ziyu, making him wonder if this container is also something valuable that he underestimated. Chu Qing left Ziyu and headed home. On the way, he noticed a road sign indicating ongoing construction ahead. Surprisingly, there were no cars around, which puzzled him since he hadn't seen any construction during his trip to the auction earlier. Out of nowhere, lightning struck, accompanied by a strong aura that shook him. Reacting quickly, he steered his car into a nearby bush for safety. Getting out of his car, he tried to figure out what was going on. In the scene unfolding before him, he saw a woman in a purple robe, an officer from the Jianwu department, approaching another woman and her group. Remembering Chenxi's explanation about the Jianwu department, Chu Qing recalled it was formed because the regular police couldn't handle the ancient martial artist groups. The officer was there to take an auction item from the woman, claiming it as her country's property. The woman asked for a judgment order, which was necessary for the Jianwu department's action. As the officer seemingly reached for the order, she suddenly attacked with a punch. In an instant, she took down all of them and went to grab the auction item. Chu Qing realized it was Chongjiang, the same item he wanted. Just then, the lady noticed someone spying on her and asked them to show themselves. He came out, and she attacked right away. He blocked her attack and summoned his sword, and even though she kicked him in the face, it didn't faze him. He countered with a powerful punch, sending her flying. She pulled out a gun, with its aura menacing, and shot at him. She thought he was done for, so she took the item and started to leave. But out of nowhere, Chu Qing stabbed her from behind, and she died. The bullet's aura had hurt him badly, so he started cultivating immediately to heal his wounds. He cried out in pain as he did so. Chu Qing realized that whenever he tried to close his wounds, they would reopen and get worse. He couldn't figure out why until he inspected the gun that had shot him. Despite looking like a normal gun, he soon found out that the dangerous energy was stored in the bullet itself. Acting on this discovery, he went straight to Huahua's house. When Huahua saw him, she was surprised and helped him onto the bed. Chu Qing asked her to cut out the bad part of his wound, but she was too scared to do it. Instead, she called Chenxi for help. When Chenxi arrived, she did what needed to be done and tied up his wounds. The next morning, Chu Qing felt much better. Then, Chenxi confronted him about meeting up with Huahua behind her back. Chu Qing defended himself, saying that if women could have multiple men, he should be able to have multiple women too. She asked him what had happened, and he explained that he had killed a messenger from Jianwu who had tried to assassinate him. This revelation shocked Chenxi and Huahua. Chenxi examined the bullet and identified it as Wang Chuan's. She wondered how he had survived and asked about the messenger's rank. He admitted not knowing the rank, but remembered the messenger wearing a purple robe. Chenxi informed him that a purple robe indicated the lowest rank in the Jianwu department, and questioned why Wang Chuan's bullet was associated with it. Later, Chu Qing's phone rang and he considered leaving for school to avoid talking with his dad. Chenxi and Huahua encouraged him to rest and recover from his wounds instead. He reassured them that his wounds had already healed completely. Chenxi was surprised by how fast he had recovered from Wang Chuan's injuries. She asked him how he had stopped the spread of Wang Chuan's aura in his body. He explained it was a simple technique and offered to teach her if she was interested. She was excited, but he had to leave for school and departed. As he left, Huahua tried to talk to Chenxi, but she didn't respond and left as well. Back in school, Chu Qing used to doze off during class while the teacher was teaching. Song Chaoren would try to wake him up, which annoyed the teacher. She'd slam her hand on the table and scold Song Chaoren for disturbing the class. She even threatened to call Chu Qing's parents. Song Chaoren would plead with the teacher, and Chu Qing joined in. They promised not to cause a disturbance while sleeping in the future, making the whole class laugh. The teacher warned that if Song Chaoren didn't make it to the top 10 in the exam, she'd involve his parents. Chu Qing surprised everyone by offering to take the exam for Song Chaoren. The teacher warned that if he failed, she'd expose their actions during assembly, embarrassing them. Chu Qing realized Song Chaoren had a crush on him. A student told Tang Xian that Chu Qing was cheating on Song Chaoren. Tang Xian and her friends confronted Song Chaoren but found Chu Qing with his head on the table. Misinterpreting the situation, she assumed he was in tears. She went to meet him but found out he was just sleeping. Song Chaoren said sorry to Chu Qing for causing him trouble, but he told her not to blame herself since he was the one who dozed off in class. He gave her a hug and reassured her that they would always be friends. Tang Xian and Chu Qing then went to the cafeteria for lunch. Tang Xian's friend Tao Yunyao scolded Chu Qing and told him to apologize to Tang Xian for hugging another girl in front of her. Chu Qing argued that she should apologize too, as many guys were pursuing her. Chu Qing told Tao Yunyao that he didn't need Tang Xian's protection and should instead be protecting her. Tao Yunyao burst into laughter, and Tang Xian joked that he'd need to become stronger than her to do that. Tao Yunyao cautioned him to stay away from other women, but he pulled her closer and flirted. After a while, Tang Xian informed Chu Qing that the formula he had given her had been tested and wasn't for improving martial arts skills. It was actually a poison recipe. Chu Qing was shocked. However, Tang Xian told him that the poison still held value and offered 200 million for it. This surprised Chu Qing, making him think he could be rich by selling his formulas. He mentioned wanting to buy herbs from her family to make more elixirs for Chenxi's mom. Tang Xian was taken aback that he wanted to make elixirs since no man in the country was skilled at it. She said she looked forward to it because it was him. Then, she playfully licked some food remnants off Chu Qing, leaving him wondering. She explained most men would be embarrassed, advising him to stop martial arts training. She promised to protect him if he needed defense. Concerned for his health, she gave him healing medicine and joked about not wanting an impotent husband. Chu Qing got home, and his dad scolded him for not coming home the previous night. Chenxi appeared, making excuses for him. Chu Qing was surprised and asked why she came. She gave him Tang family healing medicine, not knowing he already had one from Tang Xian. He went ahead and collected it anyways, and started teaching her how to handle Wang Chuan. They entered Chu Qing's room and started the cultivation process. After a while, Chenxi started coughing and feeling pain. Without delay, he gave her the healing medicine, only to find out that his Reiki was causing damage along her body's pathways. He then realized that when he had healed Aunt Ye, his Reiki had passed through her body instead of her meridian. He acted quickly, directing his Reiki through her body, which relieved her pain. This helped him understand why Tang Xian had called the formula a poison. He deduced that the main difference between men and women in this world was the irregularity of their meridians. This led him to conclude that he needed an ancient martial arts book. Suddenly, Chenxi tried to seduce him by leaning in, but their moment was interrupted by Chu Qing's father entering the room. Surprised to find them on the bed when they had claimed to be studying, Chenxi said his goodbyes and left in a hurry. Chu Qing then reassured her father that there was nothing romantic between them. Left alone, Chenxi thought about using the Chongjiang technique to craft his sword's sheath. Meanwhile, 2 women from the Jianwu department visited the spot where their colleague had been killed to investigate the murderer. One of them, dressed in a green robe, mentioned that her family had arranged for her to marry someone from the Chu family. She was on her way to Jinmen to meet this prospective partner. Chu Qing practiced cultivation diligently. He crafted a sheath for his sword and made a mask to hide his face during missions. He was puzzled by the fights over Chongjiang. Chenxi messaged him, inviting him over for dinner with her mom. At the Ye mansion, Aunt Ye asked about his elixir progress. He said it would be ready next week. She offered to pay, but he asked to see the Ye family's cultivation techniques instead. Aunt Ye refused, saying only family members by marriage could access the book. Chu Qing disagreed, saying he would choose who joins his family. Aunt Ye warned him about the risks of ancient martial arts and suggested he quit. Curious why men couldn't learn martial arts, he planned to ask Jia Yu. At Jia Yu's place, he learned that men had to be castrated to cultivate. Chu Qing was surprised by the news. When Jia Yu offered to help him find a hospital for his castration, he said no. He then asked where he could buy old self-defense techniques, but Jia Yu told him it was impossible. Families who knew these techniques guarded them and didn't share. Chu Qing realized that learning ancient martial arts in this world wouldn't be easy. Later, he got a message from Hua Hua saying some packages had arrived from the Tang family. He went to her house and worked alone to make pills. He successfully made the Quan Yi Dan, a pill that could make a person stronger by 30% for a little while. Hua Hua watched out of curiosity as he worked, finding it hard to believe he could make pills since only special alchemist families could do that. Eventually, they started making out, despite Hua Hua being on her period. The day after, while at school, Chu Qing felt tired because he hadn't slept well the night before. Yamao, who is Chenxi's brother, met him and said that his sister wanted to meet him. Chu Qing followed Yamao, and when they found Chenxi, she offered him a drink. Chu Qing drank it right away, but soon started feeling dizzy, realizing Chenxi had drugged him again. She took him to a hotel room and tried to get intimate with him. After they slept together, she gave him the book he had asked for. The ancient martial arts manual of the Yi family. She then told him that he'd have to be her future husband if he wanted to open the book. He agreed happily. With excitement, he pulled her close and kissed her, passing something into her mouth. Chenxi was curious about it, and he assured her she'd understand soon. While Chu Qing read through the book, Chenxi began her training. He found out that in this world, women could absorb spiritual power through meridians, while men couldn't without risking harm. He figured out a way to adapt the martial arts techniques so that men could practice them safely. Chenxi told him she had made progress, and he revealed he had given her Qingyi, the special wine from Chongjiang, to help her. She tested her strength against his and realized he was still stronger. They soon began making out again. If you'd like part 2, please let us know in the comments. Thanks, guys!